Welcome to the last session on data analytics with Power BI. Today is the last session. It is the 10th day of this free training program conducted by 360DigiTMG. So I hope you have enjoyed the course so far, and I hope you have learned a lot of new things through this course. Okay. All right. So in the previous session, we had discussed about DAX, what it is, and how using this basically we can write calculations. We can create calculated fields, which could be columns or measures. How we can use basic arithmetic operators, summix function, how it works at row level data, and then you can use that information obtained. How to create date table by using calendar function or calendar auto functions, and various options that we have to format the date that is present in a field. So this is what we had seen yesterday. Today, I will talk about the aggregate functions that we can create using the DAX language. There is something called as a calculate function. We'll see its purpose with a couple of examples. Filter function, I will try to give you an overview of that. And we will talk about logical functions. Again, one example on it. And then I will try to give you a quick overview of the analytics pane, which we have not yet explored. So this is what we will cover and wind up the training. Now let me switch to Power BI quickly. And today I didn't make the connection to the data sources yet. Getting connected. So we'll be using fact table, location, and product table. Let me load the data. All right. So yesterday, we had seen certain basic arithmetic operations that we can perform. For example, computing the difference, expressing that difference as a percentage. So before I even start off with the aggregate functions, there is one small tip that I would like to give you all. So whenever you have created measures, whenever you create measures, like this is our data. Let's say I would like to create a new measure. So I'll select the field and select the option for creating a new measure. And we know that here on the formula bar, we can give it a name. For example, difference. And let's say my intention is to get the difference between the profit made and the expected profit. Okay. So this is one very important measure based on which we can understand whether we have achieved the target or not. And you can see the difference here. Let's say I also want to calculate the percent difference. Okay, this is also something we had seen yesterday, where you will get the and if I take this difference and divide the whole thing with the budget profit, okay, it's going to compute the difference and express it as a percent of what was expected, right? In the sense, okay, whether we have reached the target or missed the target and by what percent. Now, first thing that I would like to talk about is something called as DAX formatter. The formula that we write here may not appear in a very user-friendly manner. When somebody needs to debug the formula which we have written, and imagine if the formula is very large, you have a lot of conditions set up. It will be very difficult for them to understand this and then interpret it. So one very interesting tool that we have is something called as DAX formatter. Okay, when you go to daxformatter.com, here you could paste your DAX code here. Okay, and then when you click on format, it will format it into a very nice user-friendly manner with all the color codes and all. Now you could copy this formula, which is formatted, and then you can go and paste it over here. So this is a very simple formula, so you may not be able to appreciate the feature as much, but when you deal with lengthy formulas, this comes in very handy. Okay, this is very, very useful. All right, so this is one thing that's formatted is one thing I wanted to just let you know about before we get into the topics. And the next thing is, when you have a lot of measures created, here I have only 2, but imagine if you have a lot of measures created, it will be little difficult to, scroll up and down and look for the fields or to search for the fields and all. You might want to move all the measures into a separate table, all the calculated measures. If you want, you could create a new table and move them into a separate table so that it is easier for you to reference those measures at a later point of time. Okay, how do we create a new table? On the home ribbon, we have an option to enter data. So basically, it will create a new table for us. I will just click on enter data. It gives me a table with 1 column in it, but I don't want to put any data in there. I'll just give a name to this. I'll call this measures table. So all the measures I will store in this table. The table will be created and you will find it here in your data pane. You can see on my screen on the bottom left corner, you can see measure table is created with 1 column. Now I will move these fields in here. How do I move all the measures into this table? Okay, how can I go to each of these measures and move them into this table? So I'll have to select the field and then I have to go to the measure tools ribbon. Measure tools. Okay, this is specific to the measure. So I have measure tools, which is a contextual ribbon. I'd like to move it from the fact table into measure table. So percent difference is now moved into measure table. I could also change the formatting, maybe show it as a percentage itself. Okay, now what about difference? This also needs to go into the measure table. So I selected it. I will go up here on the measure tools contextual ribbon and move it into the measure table. Okay, job done. Now this one particular column that is present here in my measure table, the default column, because when you say you're trying to create a table will have at least 1 column in it. We can't delete it up front. After we have moved or created some columns in the table, any column that is not required, you could remove it. So now I will right click on this and select the option to delete from model. Yes. Like this, I have a measures table created now. So all the measures I can store in one common place so that it is very easy for me to refer back to them. Okay, these were 2 tips that I wanted to mention about even before we get into the topics. So DAX formatter is a very interesting thing. It will allow you, especially when you're writing very lengthy formulas, you could just format them nicely in DAX formatter with 1 click and copy that code into Power BI. Second thing, generally in any project, a lot of measures will be created for various requirements. So it is better to create a separate table where you can store all your measures and reference to them very easily. All right. Now we'll get into what we have as the first topic on the agenda, aggregate functions. It might seem very simple, or you might feel these are basic things, but these are very, very important things that one has to know. For example, let's say now, I will take state from location and create a table visual, okay? State. So it's going to list out all the states that are present in the table, in that particular connection. Okay, these are the list of states that we are working with. Now, let's say for each of these states, I would like to check what is the total sales from them. Okay, and not by simply dragging and dropping sales into values, but by creating a measure, total sales measure. How? I'll just go up to new measure, and in the formula bar, I will write a formula to get the total sales, which is basically sum of the sales data. Close the bracket, and if there is any error, you will get a red colored indication over here. Here it is gray right now, which means everything is fine, and I'll hit the enter key. Total sales is created, but where is it? It is in the fact table. But I would like to move it into the measures table. I want to keep all the measures in one location so that it is easy for me to reference to them. So measure table. You can notice now it has moved into the measure table. Total sales is done. I'd like to have another measure. This time, let's say average of the data in the sales column. So the function to use to compute average is average itself of what? Sales. Enter. This becomes another field, and right now measure table itself is selected. We are in there. That is why the new fields are going into the measure table automatically, because that is the table, that is the home table. I'll make another measure now. And this time, let's say I want to get the minimum sales. So the min function will help us to obtain the minimum value from a field. Enter. You can see minimum sales. Let me create another measure. This time, let's say I want to get the maximum sales. So these are the basic aggregations that every tool will have, and one needs to be familiar with. You need to know how each of these functions work. So maximum of sales. They're all getting added into my measure table. Now, what if I might want the median? I could create another measure to get the median of sales. So I will use the function median to obtain the median of the data in the sales column. Like this, whatever you might want, you can get. Now, what if you want the standard deviation of the data? So we have a function called as STDEV, standard deviation population, standard deviation of the sample. What if you want to get the variance? Variance of the population, variance of the sample. So here, standard deviation, okay, of the sales data present in the sales column. So like this, we could get whatever information we might want and keep them, store them in the measures table. So now that I have the entire data ready, created, I will load the data into this text table, into this visual. How do we load it? We can either drag and drop it in the columns down here, or I could just select it. So I want total sales. You see it came. Now if I go click on average sales, the next thing, I would like to see the maximum sales, the minimum sales, okay, the median of sales, the standard deviation of sales, and you can see how all the data is getting populated. Okay, and each of these fields, if you would like to format, for example, total sales, I could go up to the contextual ribbon, measure tools, and then format it from here. This is currency. Let's say I want to show it as currency. Same with average sales. All this is currency. So we might want to go ahead and format it and show it as a currency. Now you can just reduce the decimals also. Automatically, it is coming up with the optimum number of decimals here automatically, which we can change. Let's say I just want 2 decimals. You see, like that. All right. So, okay, it is giving us the sales. Wonderful. It's giving us total, average, max. But at what level? Maximum sales, minimum sales for each and every state. Why for state? Because that is what I have in my visual. I have state in my graph. Therefore, for each state, it is computing the measure. Okay. Suppose you would like to check it, cross-verify. You want to cross-check. You could just go and verify it in the data view. However, I think now in the data view of fact table, okay, I'm in the data view of fact table. The problem is I don't have state here. State is in the location table, right? If I select location, state is here. What if I want state in the fact table so that I can cross-check and compare? We did this yesterday. There is a function called as related that can be used. So I'm going to create a new column inside my fact table where I will store the state information that is already present in the location table. So related function, what will it do? It will bring the data and store it here. Now that I have the state column, I could just go there and work with it. Sorry, I think I brought the wrong field. I brought in market. I need to bring the state field. Okay, state field. Okay, let's check for the state of California. Now, when we click on the drop-down icon of the pill, it's just like in the case of filters. It will give you the list of options and you could filter. I want to focus only on California. And for California, I would like to check the sales. So let me sort this data in ascending order. So the minimum sales is 86. And what's the maximum sales? When I sort it in descending order, 912. Similarly, when you probably get the average of the values, the minimum of the values, the median of the values, you could check the data. We also have the option to copy this entire table and paste it elsewhere, maybe in an Excel or somewhere like that. Okay. So maximum is 912. Let me now cross check in the report. See, maximum for California 912. Minimum is 86. I hope you are getting the point. So these are most frequently used aggregations. And when you save them like that, you can use them in any chart you want. And based on the categorical data, okay, these numbers will be automatically calculated. That is the purpose of a measure, right? Automatically, they will be calculated for each graph on each graph that you use them. Unlike a column which will be stored as a physical column in the table consuming memory, measures will not take up any memory. On the go, they will get evaluated. So that's about measures and aggregate. So a table where we are showing so many statistics together about that particular data. Now, let us talk about the calculate function. It is one of the most powerful functions that are available in DAX. So what will I do now with respect to the calculate function is, let's say I would like to show or compare the sales of the current year with that of the previous year. Okay, I would like to compare the sales of the current year with that of the previous year and display that information in the graph. How to do that? We have a function called as calculate in order to achieve this. So I'll open a new page. Let's say, let me minimize this measure table now. Let's say for various dates, and the moment we take date, we know that date is stored as a hierarchy. So I will go there and look at the exact date as is. Now the version of coffee chain that we are using, data is such that we have one record every month. First of every month, there is a record. Like this is Jan, this is Feb, March, April, May, June. Again, for another year also we have. Basically, we have data for 2 years. Okay, we have data for 2 years. And let's say I'm looking at the sales. And I'm not very happy with the way the date is formatted. So I selected the date field from my data pane. I'll go up to format and I'm going to change its format to a slightly more user-friendly way like this. So I know this is 1st of Jan, Feb, March, so on. Again, 1st of Jan, Feb, March, so on. All right. Now I want to see the prior period, sales from the prior period. There is a function called as sales in the prior period. Okay. What will it do? It will give you the, not sales, basically data from the prior period. Here I'm talking about sales, so I'm saying sales in the prior period. It could be any measure, but from the prior year, from the last year or the previous year or the prior year, exact time period, what was the sales like is what I want to check and compare. Okay, so 2010 is the very first year for which I have data. There is nothing prior to it. But when I come to 2011, I want to see the prior year sales corresponding to this date. Prior year means what? 2010, because this is 2011 and 2010 sales has to come here. Now, how do I do it? I'm going to create a new measure and I will use the calculate function over here. What is the purpose of this new measure that I'm creating? It needs to get me the prior year sales data. So once I start typing in calculate, look at the syntax. So it will evaluate an expression in context modified by filters. We can use it, we can give condition over here. Okay. So over here, what is the expression? I would like to take the sales data that is present. I would like to take the total sales. Okay. I would like to take the total sales. And I want to get the total sales same as for the same period as the from the last year, for the same period from the last year. So if it is Jan of this year, then Jan of the last year. If it is Feb of this year, same period last year, means February of the year prior to it. Last year meaning prior year, okay? A year prior to it. Then, so it has to check with the date field in the fact table. It has to check the date, and for the dates that are there in that date field from the prior last year, it has to fetch the corresponding data. That is what this calculate function will do. Same period as last year. It's going to this is my filter condition. This is my filter condition, which is on the date, asking it to bring the data for the last year. This is the condition. Okay. So when I do this, and now if we check the prior year sales by bringing it in here, you look at that. Here we don't have prior year because that is the very first or the beginning. Jan 2011, prior period means what? From the previous year, the prior. So it is 31,555. So if I look at April, then prior to that in April, 32,943. If I look at June, then prior to that in June, 35,125. Like that all the way up to December. So in December 2010, it is 33373, which is prior to this 2011. Okay, so correspondingly it will come. That's the beauty of same period last year function. So calculate will calculate whatever you want it to calculate based on the condition that you set up inside that calculate function. I hope to some extent you have getting an idea about what calculation does. It checks what is the filter condition you are applying, and it will calculate whatever you ask it to compute, but in context to the filter that you have applied, with reference to the filter that you have applied. I'll give you one more example. Again, let's say for different states, okay, I am checking the sales. So for various states, I have the sales data loaded over here. Let's say now I need another column where I will show the sales of only a particular state, not all the states. I want the sales of a particular state to come here. How to do that? I'll go ahead and create a new measure, and this time use the calculate function to get the sales. Let's say I want to get the sales for a particular state, whatever state is entered by the user. Okay, so calculate what the sales. So I already have total sales. Which is computed, so I could directly use it, comma. Now the filter. See, what is the syntax of calculate? Expression. Expression is bring the data from total sales. Based on what condition? My condition is that the location should be, let's say, Iowa. I want to bring the total sales only for the state of Iowa and store it in this field sales for state. So sales for sales from sales Iowa, anything, something like that. Okay, enter. Now the field is created. Let me load it into the table. Look at that. Only for that particular state which is mentioned in the filter condition of the calculate function, we are able to see the data, not for anything else. Now, what if I change this over here? Instead of Iowa, let's say I want to look for Florida. Enter. You will notice how it's going to compute the sales only for the state of Florida and display. That is how calculate works. Expression followed by the expression, the filter condition. What is filter doing? It is focusing on the condition and based on your condition, working only with that data which satisfies the condition. In this case, that particular state. In the previous example, prior period. From the date column, it's not looking at all the dates. Prior period date is what it is looking at. Okay, so I hope you all got some idea about what a calculate function does. We'll move on to filter function now. Filter is also a very useful function. You can use filter to create subset tables. Okay, some small subsets with the data that you desire to work with. You can store it into a different table with filter. So I will try to explain with an example of what it means to create saved subsets of data of existing table. Now, if you look at the fact table, let me show you the data in the data view, okay? Data view, fact table, I'll go to the data view. Lot of transactions have happened. Let me clear this filter. Lot of transactions have happened where some profit is made, some budget profit is given, some sales, COGS, a lot of data we have. This table has information about all the transactions that have happened. Each and every transaction that has happened, 4,248 rows in total. Okay, let's say we don't want to analyze everything. We need to focus and work with only those transactions where the profit made is greater than, let's say, 300. I don't want everything. All the 4,000 records that are there, I'm not interested. Only those records where the profit is greater than 300 are to be taken, and they should be stored in a separate table and analyzed. I hope you got my requirement. I want to take all these transactions, everything from the fact table. I would like to take everything from the fact table. However, only those records where the profit is greater than 300. So that information should go into a new table, and I will work with that table, or maybe export that table and send it across to someone. How to do that? How do I create a new table altogether now? So I'll go up to table tools and select the option for creating a new table. Okay, here I'm going to say this is a sample table, or I would just say this is a high profit table. This is a table where I have all the transactions which are highly profitable. And what is this supposed to contain? What is this table supposed to contain? Not everything. There is a filter condition. It has to take everything that is present in which table? In the fact table. So table is fact table, but not all the records. So which records? That is where the expression will come into picture. Those records where the profit is greater than 300. This is my condition. So my high profit table will now contain all the columns from the fact table, but only those records where the profit is greater than 300. Look at that. Now, if I show you the values here, you will see it's starting at 303. All the low profit transactions are gone. So number of rows that we have, 120 rows are there which meet the criteria. Suppose I change this to greater than 400. You see? All the transactions with greater than 400. So we have just 40 rows in total which are meeting the criteria given. So this is stored in a completely different table altogether now. High profit table. It has all the fields of the actual fact table, but the number of records are limited because it's now storing only those transactions where the profit is greater than 400. Okay, I hope you're getting the significance. So filter is basically going to help you write some filter conditions in the formula based on which you can fetch the data that you need or work with the particular member with which you would like to work. All right, so now we will do a few more things. Let's say I'll go to this fact table. I'm still on my data view. A lot of things that we can do in the data view also. For example, let's say I want a new column here. Okay, first I'll create a new column called difference, where I will just get the actual profit minus the budget profit, something we've created a lot in this training. Anyway, so this is a column that is holding the difference. Okay, now what I want to demonstrate is a logical function. Okay, we have seen filter function. Now I want to demonstrate logical function. So here If the difference between the actual profit and the target is negative, it clearly means that the target was not achieved. Right? It means the target was missed. We missed the target and we missed it by almost $160. Here, we achieved the target. We went beyond the expectation. We went above the target, and that too by $143. Okay. Now, I would like to categorize the transactions into two types. Those transactions where we have achieved the target and those transactions where we have missed the target. So how do I break it? Or I would like to have another column indicating whether the target is reached or not. So how do I indicate that information over here? I could create a new column and write a logical expression. So I'll give a name to the column as target reached or not. Okay, so whether the target is reached or target missed kind of a thing. Now, how do I build a formula? It is supposed to check the difference, and based on the difference, it is supposed to decide whether the target is met or not. So I could use if statement. If followed by that is the logical test. So if the difference is greater than 0, that is my logical test. If at all the difference is greater than 0, or maybe greater than or equal to 0, I will say, look at the next argument in the syntax. After the logical test, where I'm checking whether the difference is greater than 0, the next logical test is to figure out what to do if it is true. And if it is true, you just mark it as target achieved. Target achieved. And then result if false. If it is not true, means the difference is not greater than or equal to 0. It means the target is missed. Simple logical statement. Now, when I hit the enter key, you can see the new column created, and wherever we have achieved the target or wherever we have missed the target, we can clearly see. Here we achieved, here we missed. So calculated columns, okay, based on, so row level data, whenever you want your data to work with row level information, you can create a calculated column, and you can also write some conditional expressions. Using related functions, we can bring data from one table into another. At any given point of time, you just copy the table with a right click. You can copy the table that you have created with all the fields, with all the data in it, and paste it wherever you want. Okay, so that is about calculations and how we make use of DAX. DAX is nothing but calculated fields, nothing but calculated fields. So the more comfortable you are with writing DAX, practice it as much as possible. You can answer different scenarios, questions very easily. Those of you familiar with Excel, I think you will find this very easy because the functions are pretty much the same. Okay. Now, one last thing that I would like to touch upon before we wind up the overall training, which we have not yet looked at till now, is the analytics pane. So a quick overview of the analytics pane is what I would like to give you. Let me maybe make a bar graph or maybe a column chart like this. So let's say for various products, I will indicate the sales. Okay, done. This is my graph. Now, we had discussed extensively about the options that are available in the formatting pane. Options in the formatting pane we had discussed extensively. But what I would like to discuss about or touch upon is the options available in the analytics pane. Depending on the kind of chart that you create, these options will come up. Sometimes you might not have anything. Sometimes you may get a very limited number of options. Sometimes you might get extensively a lot of options. So here the analytics pane is allowing me to add a constant line. That's all. Okay, constant line. So let's say there is a target that is given to these members, and I would like to indicate the target with a line, with a reference line. So I could just click on add line and value that it should indicate. Let's say the target is 75,000. So I have a reference line indicating 75,000 that is passing through like that. The color is not so good. I'll make it dark. Okay, so that it is easier for people to see it, understand or figure out that a line is present. You can have a dashed line, dotted line, solid line, anything. Right now, the position of the line is in the front of the marks. If we want, we can move it behind the marks also. If you don't want it to be dominating there, you can also move it behind the marks. Let me bring it to the front. Data label also can be turned on, indicating what that represents. Okay, the data label also can be turned on. So this is representing 75,000 as you can see. So for this chart, at most we are able to put a line. But if you create maybe a line chart with time series data. Okay, for example, let's take date and visualize the sales in the form of a line chart. And I'm months. So when I go here, you can see Jan, March, April, May for 1 year and then for the subsequent year. Now, what kind of options do we have on the analytics pane for this one? When I go here to analytics, there are a lot of things. First thing that I can turn on is the trend line option. I turn it on. A trend line will tell you about the overall direction in which your business is moving. So slowly we can see, though there are a few ups and downs, overall it is an upward direction. That's what we understand. And when we expand, open, you have a lot of, again, options to explore. Okay. Let's say I'm not interested in showing the trend line. I would like to simply show a minimum line. Minimum line means what? A line that will go through the minimum value in the chart. Okay. Let's say now I want max line. So a line that will go through the maximum value in the graph here. Maybe I want to show the average. I want to see what is the average and how many are above average and how many data points are falling below the average. So I could turn on the average line. Data points above and data points below the average line. Median. How is median different from average? Average is the simple average. It is summation of all the data points divided by the count. Median, on the other hand, is the middle value which divides your data into two parts. Okay, provided the data is sorted in a sequence. So it takes the data in a sequence and divides that into two parts. Okay, so median line. Percentile line. Percentile line. So if I go and add, I can actually put the line. Okay, maybe too many lines. Let me remove all of them. So what does this percentile line indicate? Okay, so right now it is indicating 90th percentile. This is the 90 percentile line, which means 90% of the values lie below this line. Okay, suppose I change this to 50. So if this is the percentile line, 50th percentile mark, which is also the median, okay, 50th percentile mark, which is also the median, 50% of the values fall below the line, 50% of the values fall above the line. Suppose I change this to 75. Then it's going to put a line where 75% of the 25% of the values lie above the line, 75% of the values lie below the line. That is what percentile indicates. Okay. Then I think I will remove percentile line also because I want to talk about something else over here. So you can also put a constant line with respect to the x-axis and a constant line with respect to the y-axis. Suppose there is a target that it should the sales should be 30,000, and we want to see how many members have gone. Sales should be 35,000. How many members have achieved more than 35? How many have gone below 35? So you could simply go add a constant line with respect to the y-axis, and the line is supposed to indicate 30, let's say 4,000, 34,000 or 35,000, whatever you want. So the members that are above and members that are below. Okay, could of course change the color of the line and all that. So constant line can be added even if it is a line graph, not just a bar graph. But with a line graph, generally we get a lot of other options, including trend and so on. So I'll keep the trend for now. And I will remove that constant line, which is not required. The next thing very quickly we will talk about is forecast. Now, forecast means estimating the future values by looking at the current data that is there in the graph. Okay, by looking at the existing information, when we try to estimate the future values, that is called forecast. So let me just turn on forecast. And you can notice that these, till here we have the actuals, and this is the forecasted data. It's not just giving you the estimated sales for that particular month and all. It's also giving you a band. This upper bound, lower bound means the sales is likely to fall in this area. Okay. When I expand forecast and look at the option, forecast length, meaning how far into the future are we trying to go? For how many units in the future? So let's say not so many. I just want to forecast for the next maybe 4 units, next 4 quarters. Okay. Apply. So if we have data till here, then the next 4 quarters is what? The whole of 2012. So let's say next two quarters. That is basically only 6 months, right? 2 quarters is 6 months. Or precisely how many months you can choose. Only next 2 months. So if I have data until December, then it's estimating for Jan and Feb. Jan and Feb, the next 2 months or the next 3 months. Okay. So like that, you can decide the forecast length, meaning how far into the future are you trying to go and do the estimation. If at all you would like to ignore some existing data, that is also possible. Maybe we don't want to take these 2 data points and estimate for that. So ignore last 2 and estimate for the next, let me do it. Estimate for the next 4. So it is estimating for these also. It's taking the actual data only until here. It ignored whatever was there for November and December. This is the actual performance in November and actual performance in December. But as per the estimate, look at that. This is the estimated value, the black dot. So here the model is estimating that the sales will be 35,020. But the actual sales turned out to be 34,100. So you can test your model basically. You can test the accuracy of your model. And in December, by considering data up to October, the model has estimated that the sales will be so and so, 3520. And what happened? What is the actual sales? It is above the estimated value. It is 35,580. So you can test the accuracy. And it is likely to fall in this area. This is called the precision range, the upper bound and the lower bound. So it will fluctuate in this only. It can't go beyond that as per the model. Here, it depends on the confidence interval. It is set to 95%. So what if I reduce the confidence to 75? Then the upper bound and lower bound region, it will become narrow. Okay, we're not trying to be very accurate or precise or confident here. We're just leaving it as a small band. Okay, you can change the confidence interval from one of the inbuilt options we can select. As the confidence interval increases, the band will start becoming wider and wider because we are reducing the room for error. Okay, so like this, forecasting also can be done. Forecast line, anyway, it's coming as a solid black line. Confidence bands are coming. If you want tooltip, you can edit. All these things are available. So forecast, I think, is a very interesting feature that we have, which we can use to estimate the future values by looking at the current and the historical data. So these are certain options which are there on the analytics pane, which definitely come in handy. Especially when you're performing analytics on your data. Okay, so with this, we come to the end of our training, the whole program. We have covered the overall agenda. And in addition to the agenda that was committed at the beginning of the session, even the analytics pane options have been now touched upon, which you can further explore. Few points that I would like to mention before I wind up the session. First thing, people have been constantly asking about the data. Where is the data? How can we get the data? Why are you not sharing the data? Data is already shared. You just need to look for it. So I request you to go to the 5th day of the training. Day 5 recording, if you go there. And if you just kindly scroll down and open the comments, here you have link to the coffee chain data sources. From the 5th session onwards, day 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and today 10. All the 6 days, like from 5 onwards up to 10, only this particular data set has been used, nothing else. I didn't use anything else. I've been using this only. And if you check the videos of the previous recordings, I think the link is uploaded for the previous files also. But mostly we have used only these files from 5th day onwards. Okay, this is one point I wanted to mention. Second point is, those of you who are interested in further exploring the course or whoever is interested in, learning the course in a much more detailed manner. It's not going anyway. Whoever is interested in further exploring the thing in a much more detailed manner, the course, if you're interested in learning the overall program with respect to Power BI, learn it in depth. If you want to learn it in depth, and if you want to work on projects, on real-time live projects on Power BI, get the exposure to how things happen in the real-time environment. Okay. You could consider enrolling for our data visualization using Power BI training, and these are the things that you will get. Okay. So the next point I wanted to talk about. Yeah, that's it. I think you're familiar that we have DAX formatted. You also know that you have documentation on DAX for reference, which is provided by Microsoft people itself. You can refer to DAX functions, DAX statements, etc. Video, the training material is here, and this is the link to the website. So let me take this and I will put it over here. Okay, link to the Power BI course by 360DigiTMG. This is one thing. Yeah, I think data sources you can take from here. Yeah, that's it. So any questions from your side? Let me know, I will take up. As a data analyst, which project should we do, either EDA project or dashboard project? Both. First you will do EDA on your data, and then you both are important. On YouTube, there are various projects which are based on dashboard. Is it okay to use them as a project in our resume? I wouldn't recommend that, because you will be asked questions about the projects that you showcase in your resume. And if you're just picking something from the YouTube at random and putting it, it wouldn't be the right thing to do. Try to get real-time experience by working on some live projects, which you can showcase with a lot of confidence on your resume. Because you would have worked on them, you would have worked end-to-end on those projects, right? In that case, when you have worked end-to-end on the project, and such projects, when you showcase them in your resume, that is where it will add value and not just randomly anything from YouTube. I wouldn't recommend, that is what I will say, and it's up to you beyond that. Okay, any other questions, any of you, related to the program that we have had so far? Any other generic questions that you might have? Because it's the last day, I tried to wind up a little early so that I can take up any questions that you people would have. If there are no questions, then that's it from my side too. Thank you all. All the best to all of you. And I hope you all have gained enough knowledge on Power BI to take your journey forward from here. We provide real-time projects. That is why we are here. Mohammed, how can you work on real-time project when you don't get a job? That is what we give you at 360DigiTMG. That is the unique feature of 360DigiTMG, because we have a tie-up with Innodatatics. So the projects that our employees work upon through Innodatatics, they are shared with the participants. You will be working alongside DataAnalytics. After you complete all the assignments that are assigned, okay, then you will be allocated to a project, a real-time project, where you will work alongside the employees of Innodatatics. That is how you get real-time. Yeah, with internship later. If you're interested in internship, you can continue, go ahead and work, take up the internship program also. And after the internship, you can start applying for jobs. Right. Okay, you can get in touch with our team for further details about it, how these real-time projects work, how are we committing that we'll give you a real-time project, with whom you will work. All these you can, get all the clarifications first and then you confirm. You can talk to them now. Both are available. Okay, just visit this link that I shared with you. You can visit the link, you can request a callback, or you could just drop in an email and they will call you back and they will give you all the details. Okay, any other details anybody would like to know? All right, thank you all. Thank you so much for your support. All the best to all of you. And yeah, keep improving your skills. Please do like the video, share it with your friends. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, then I think you should consider subscribing to it now. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.